timer to 20 minutes. Okay, I'm ready to go. So good afternoon and good morning to anybody who is listening to us, whether you are in European or American time zone. Welcome to our webinar. Matrix International Financial Services and Pitney Bowes are happy to spend the next hour talking to you about the key regulations of PSD2 and Gdpr and the way they change fraud and financial crime. I'm Yair Samban, Head of Compliance and Fraud Services for Matrix IFS. I'll be covering the open banking and PSD2 initiatives and regulations, how they drive innovation in financial services, in particular around fraud strategy and fraud operations. And our partner, Chris Butlin, Director of Professional Services from Pitney Bowes, will cover GDPR and how data transforms the way we do business and influences the digital transformation journey that every enterprise, and in that context, including and specifically focusing on financial services, is impacted by this regulation. Hopefully, it will be an interesting and engaging session for you. We'll allow questions at the end. Looking forward to hear from all of you about your feedback and any experience you've had with implementing those regulations and keeping your business safe and compliant. Matrix International Financial Services is happy to sponsor and promote this webinar. We cover anti-money laundering, fraud prevention, and capital markets compliance from several key aspects, project delivery, consulting, and the underlying secret sauce, inverted commas, which is data. And in this context, the regulations of PSD2 and GDPR are one of the key topics that I'm having conversations with our clients, partners, and prospects. It is a topic that keeps coming up in terms of how can financial services keep their business compliant while still being at the forefront of innovation. And this is innovation not only for the sake of innovation, but mainly and primarily for the sake of minimizing costs. So without putting that as part of our main raison d'etre, this is something that we tend to be in quite a lot of conversations around how to minimize the cost of compliance and how to utilize technology to decrease the overheads that come with an increased expectation around compliance. The first topic we'll touch on in detail will be PSD2 and open banking, how those European regulations are driving innovation in financial crime prevention, in banking, in financial services. The challenge many organizations are facing in the UK and across the EU is the fact that the second Payment Services Directive, in shorthand PSD2, is driving companies, is expecting financial services to expose account and payment information to consumers by using third-party applications. This challenge creates increased fraud risk, which pushes banks towards accelerated innovation in fraud detection and data management. Of course, the regulation's intent is not to increase the fraud risk. The regulator has mandated, has encouraged competition and innovation for consumers' benefit across the financial services sector. Unfortunately, as we know, fraudsters, criminals, terrorists are very good at utilizing every drop of advantage they might be able to benefit from, in particular driving their own side of innovation and using any gaps in controls. So by having a new regulation in place, but having a new capability in the hands of third-party applications, this also extends the extent of fraud risk that banks have. We will progress with a number of recommendations towards the end of this webinar. Hopefully there'll be something that we can align on in terms of what has been going on in other financial services organizations, and more particularly what is being seen as key to the people on this call. What is open banking and what is PSD2? The intent behind open banking is to create a better level of competition within the banking industry and improve customer experience by offering more services and innovation. The regulation itself is a directive by the EU, which has to be ratified and transcribed into national law across the EU. That regulation seeks to encourage the development of innovative payment services, enhance customer protection against fraud, enhance liability and accountability, and ultimately make cross-border European payment services safer. It has been said at some point that one of the key export or innovation areas of the EU is regulations, and this is actually a good case in point, because the PSD2 regulation includes a pretty detailed level of specification around those areas. So it's not just mandating banks to open up interfaces and offer additional level of information and data to third parties, but mainly and primarily providing specifications as to the level of authentication and fraud risk and fraud reporting that those organizations have to comply with. The timeline for the implementation of the regulation, as many practitioners in the industry are, I'm sure, aware of, the regulation has been approved as part of EU law as of January 2018. In the UK, the Open Banking Initiative has resulted in legislation and in initiatives by the regulators which are mirroring the European timeline. So in effect, the UK has announced that they will comply with very similar regulations and stay aligned with European regulations in this respect. As of March 2018, the EU has ratified the final regular technical standard, RTS, on secure customer authentication and secure communication systems. And this RTS will be the key point of compliance that is still at play within 2018. Because after the ratification of the PSD2 regulation, now is the time for companies to review the details encapsulated within the regulatory technical standards. Gdpr, the Global Data Protection Regulation, has become directly applicable in all the EU member states as of May 2018. And the next milestone will happen in 2019 when the RTS will have to be disclosed and open to all third-party providers, TPPs, for testing and integration, looking to a final implementation date of September 19 for the RTS to legally apply. So while open banking has been around for a number of years, this year, 2018, is critical in terms of making your organization compliant and putting in place the right architecture to achieve that goal. The new model that is being promoted by this regulation, as it has been made well known by industry players, the current model that companies are looking at includes customers and other applications accessing bank accounts through online mobile applications provided by the bank. However, in the new model, the bank will no longer have the only access to consumers. There will be third-party providers that allow access to consumers to their bank accounts, even though they might be held by different banking organizations. So in effect, the opening up of the banking system is achieved by putting together the access to account banking model, which is regulated and kept secured by three key elements: strong customer authentication, which has to be applied according to the regulatory standards, secure communications between TPPs and customers, and transaction risk assessment at the level of the bank account and the account information that is being held in this bank account. The opportunity for innovation in financial services comes from the encouragement of competition between banking providers, new services that are being offered by both startups and challenger banks, and at the same time, established banks can offer new products and services as well. As an example, HSBC has released an app that allows their customers to connect to their banking information across other banks in the industry. And this is just an example of different services that could be offered in the context of open banking and regulated by PSD2. So it's not only the ability to access your banking details, but also the ability to access mortgage information, insurance products, new banking products that can be offered by technology companies and challenger banks to consumers across the board. We see that as a fantastic opportunity for consumers to gain more access and get new services at a better cost that they couldn't achieve before. At the same time, it increases the bank's attack surface from fraud risk. In other words, by having more opportunities to acquire banking data and to connect to banking systems, hackers and criminals have more opportunities to commit fraud. And those risks are moving the financial systems towards an increased level of innovation. Fraud detection has been evolving at a pace that is actually pretty similar to the rapid pace of regulation. So, in effect, the regulator has encouraged banks to benefit from the latest advancements in fraud protection technology. A fraud detection that ingests different sources of information, both internal to the bank and external, combines behavioral analytics and offers long periods of coverage and analytical results for unique accounts and unique scenarios. This engine is highly required by every banking organization that wants to be compliant and reduce costs of compliant to PSD2 and open banking. The evolution of those fraud systems has gone through a number of phases in the last years. The initial stage of rule-based systems has been declared no longer fit for purpose by the industry. In other words, those systems have been gradually been replaced by black box systems, which are provided by enterprise fraud prevention companies. However, those systems are also not compliant with the expectation of each bank to apply the latest and greatest technology, because the latest and greatest technology includes the ability to process large amounts of data more quickly and achieve better analytical results. And this is how probabilistic engines, leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence, have become a key buzzword and actually a key point in the sale and the value proposition of fraud prevention engines. But ultimately, white box solutions, meaning solutions that include not only analytics, but also an ability by the bank to create their own analytics, are now what every bank is seeking. So today, the commonality along discussions I'm having with different banking organizations is around the need to develop or to adopt white box fraud prevention practices, including machine learning, artificial intelligence, but also data systems and expertise that is particular to the bank and leveraging expertise available in the industry. We believe that white box processing is the key to move forward the fraud strategy. And here are a number of recommendations that we recommend banking executives to take into consideration when planning how to prevent fraud in the age of open banking. There are a number of strategies that are being discussed across the industry. The first one is maximizing the data available to the fraud engine. That requires removal of data silos within the organization, feeding the engine with as many data points as required. In particular, plastic and non-plastic channels have been treated separately by fraud strategy professionals up until now. However, because fraudsters can look at an account or a hacked mobile across plastic and non-plastic and can commit crimes across those two channels, it is important for the organization to look at those channels as well in a unified way. Extracting device information is key. So all the mobile and tablet applications out there have the ability to the bank to acquire more data than they're currently harnessing. This is a key capability in the age of open banking. And finally, account takeover and card not present will be the main threats that we envisage becoming more pertinent in the age of open banking. Specifically, the ability to take over an account or an identity or a device by a fraudster can reach pretty systemic damages, as seen in the latest cases whereby data leaks and hacks into even non-banking organizations, but just organizations that have personal data in their systems. Those data leaks can lead to hackers being able to use the same credentials to go into banking applications by use of either traditional or new channels and steal money and move money into mule accounts and so on. From a fraud operational perspective, there are a number of recommendations that we would like to mention. The first one is to review the level of compliance of the bank against the regulatory technical standards. This is now the time to engage in a study or complete a study that aims to ensure the bank is compliant with the regulations and the regulatory technical standards, and to ensure that there are no impacts in the existing fraud prevention strategy by opening the bank systems to third-party providers. Several points we recommend this study will include quality criteria for the application interface, how a strong customer authentication and transaction risk analysis are going to be implemented against the current systems deployed by the bank, the specific fraud reporting requirements by the regulatory standard, and finally, the expert security measures that the technical standard requires, specifically for a party that is relevant to the bank, knowledgeable about the security protocols to audit the bank's controls on a yearly basis or more frequently. Those points are important to put into operational procedures right now within the banking organization, lest we come to March 2019 with an API that has to be open but has not been risk-proofed as of yet. The second recommendation is to look at a multi-channel fraud prevention. Currently, many organizations are looking at investing in multi-channel authentication solutions. We believe this is a key point of looking at the entire channel architecture from a holistic point of view. What we mean by that more specifically is, as you can see in this diagram, customer accesses the bank applications through different channels, whether it's by cards or by third-party applications or directly using a bank-provided service. All of those channels need to go through a strong customer authentication, which ideally should include the same level of monitoring and intelligence applied to all channels. So while card fraud checks can stay where they are in terms of each channel will have their own specialist fraud checks processes, customer accounts at the end of the day are the same. So we recommend to look at customer accounts and to maintain a clear data lineage between the fraud risks and the customer account information and the transactional information that is being collected across those channels. Connecting the dots between the data available is crucial to achieving a multi-channel fraud architecture. Finally, data lifecycle management. So the capabilities we would like to recommend in this area include creating a unified data storefront so that all the relevant data for financial crime is accounted for, data lineage, so convergent control and quality of the data processing within the organization, and archiving and deletion services that are being controlled by the data lifecycle management application. What's next? How should you take your organization forward given what you've heard so far? So as I said before, there are 4 practical recommendations which we would like to encourage firms to take a closer look at. Reviewing the level of compliance with the regulatory technical standards, moving towards a multi-channel fraud architecture, improving the level of data lifecycle management within the organization, and developing or enhancing the level of fraud prevention towards a white box solution. We at Matrix are ready and happy to assist in those conversations and move them forward as your organization evolves. And in case of any follow-up conversations of questions, we'll be happy to answer. So before moving to the next section, which will cover the global data protection regulation, I will allow some time for questions. If anybody has a question, please let us know at this point in time.
Yair, we agreed that we're going to save all the questions for the end. And also you have a poll, don't forget.
Okay, so this is the poll, fine. Sorry for that. So in that case, I'll mention at the beginning that questions at the end. Let me introduce the poll. So you can see, can everybody see on the screen the poll? It's an internal question, but no, it's time working with this poll.
Yeah, I can see the poll.
Okay. So once I click it, basically you can see the poll.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm now producing and showing the poll for all participants. Please click on the option that is closest to where your organization is. Each of those options is relevant for fraud prevention. We'll be happy to listen and, of course, broadcast back where the industry is at in terms of investment planning in the next 12 months. And as you can see the poll results, I can see that the main areas of investment will be in improving data lifecycle management and developing a white box fraud prevention solution. We'll be happy to listen to any further thoughts about that towards the end of this session or after that. Thank you very much for the poll, and I'm handing over to my colleague Chris, who will talk about the great data revolution. Chris, please.
Thank you, yeah. So data is disrupting how we do business. More data has been collected in the last 2 years than in the entire history of mankind. And GDPR is a response to this change. GDPR came into effect on the 25th of May, and it is in effect the first global data protection regulation. Next slide, please. So data is changing and transforming the way we do business. Data growth is changing our understanding of the world. If we think of politics, the US election results, Facebook profiled ads in the US election campaign may have had an impact on the outcome of the election campaign. Customer behavior is analyzed by Amazon every day, looking at your buying patterns and your engagement. And using data is becoming more and more common to flexibly assign and manage work packages. The gig economy. Business is changing the way we do business through disintermediarization. The Internet of Things, the connection of entities to provide information without human interaction, is driving further collection of data and further interaction with our lifestyles. Data is driving this new gig economy. Businesses like Uber, Airbnb, Deliveroo are all essentially data-only companies. They don't have any other product. So as businesses, we need to be ready for our digital transformation journey. We're becoming overwhelmed by data. We need to find a way to manage all this data and turn it into information. Security is a prime concern. Regulation is responding to those concerns. Next slide, please. So we're data rich, but information poor. The transformational journey from collecting data to information will be key to business success in the future and requires a fundamental change in our behavior. That's data maturity. Building trust around the quality of the data that we hold, visualizing that data and understanding it, creating actions to support the data processes that we need to run, i.e. GDPR, and enabling that data to give us a better understanding of the business that we're running. The benefits and opportunities are that this requires watertight systems and processes and best practices in data management, as well as driving compliance, so it's a good opportunity to get your house in order. Data collection. Individual is the first stage in that data maturity model. So data collection really is instantiated by individual systems with data quality issues, a lack of a holistic search capability, and paper documents still stored in tin in your basement. As you move up that data quality or down that data quality road, then we go into ongoing quality monitoring for individual systems. Ownership is defined in those systems. We get some tuned search capabilities across the platforms, and we get some digitization of the paper documents. As we move further down the data maturity road, data entities become resolved. Attributes become normalized across our platforms. Dynamic context sharing is possible across those platforms. We get increased data accuracy across those platforms, and we become fully digitized. And then we move to the data system of record, a golden record. The content is optimized to support our business goals and needs. We've got cross-platform relationships, and all our data is unified across all our platforms. Then we move into a single view of our data. This enables us to drive analytics, understand relationships, understand what activities the people or the data is supporting, understand the insights that that can give us, and engage with our customers. There's a circular story here. The advancement in our technology and availability of data is driving a greater need of regulation. The ability to comply with that regulation requires technology innovation to assist in the automation of compliance and those solutions. So GDPR and AML are examples of that circular relationship. Next slide, please. To bring this to some reality, here's an example of how you can address the data challenge in GDPR. GDPR requires, firstly, that you identify what data you hold and where you hold it, and then you can apply on what grounds you hold that data. That's predominantly driven by Articles 5 and 25 of the GDPR regulation. So we need to understand where your data is, why you're holding it, and what that data is, and we need to analyze that data. So you need to get a picture of all the data that's in your architecture. Once you've got an understanding of your digital landscape, you need to prepare that data so that it's good quality and ready for use in prime time. So you need to keep that data up to date and limit it to what's relevant to your business. So GDPR in Article 5 requires you to have quality data and to minimize that data for the purpose for which you're running your purposes of running your business. So your data needs to be limited and quality. So we need to prepare that data, and we need a process to do that. And then finally, you need to be able to act on that data. So GDPR requires you to manage the right of access to that data and data portability. That's all around consent and transparency in a GDPR environment. So managing the rights of access of data subjects to that data, and then the portability of that data, drives you down the road of data federation and having some kind of hub that holds all that data in so you can understand the process. So to comply with GDPR, you need to understand what data you've got and where you've got that data. You need to prepare that data for prime time and limit it to what's relevant to operating your business. And then you need to make sure that your customers have access to that data, and that data has portability across the platforms. Next slide, please. And if you can build the first step, that's great. So GDPR provides you with a clear understanding of the individual citizen. So when we think of GDPR and the work that we just talked about, discovering what data you've got, preparing that data, and making it available to the citizen, you now have the understanding of the individual. So their identity, their name, the details of the individual. But as you move on in GDPR, building out those relationships and understand that status, the relationships then enable you to understand who else in that household is engaging with your company. What organizations do they belong to? What are they doing in social media? Then as you move into activities, you're able to look at their transactional histories, look at the value of that customer, look at their preferences through time. So now you're building up a picture of the customer themselves and understanding that customer. If you can move to the next build, please. Then you gain some insights into that customer. So you can start looking at their profitability, their lifetime value, their loyalty, and what you need to do to retain them. And then to the final build. And then you can start engaging with that customer in real time, understanding where they are, what they're doing, what mode they're in, what's their intent, and then enable you to communicate with them as they go through their lives. So GDPR is unique in that the initial compliance of GDPR can lead you to very big business benefits. Most regulations from initial client compliance perspective are just a cost. If you think in terms of water quality, if you have to take down the number of parts of chlorine in water, there's a cost to that as a business. But that cost doesn't give you as a business any real benefit. Nobody buys more water. But in GDPR, if you get your data right and you understand the individual, then you can go through this process of understanding their relationships, their activities, getting appropriate insights, and then engaging with them, which can drive significant business benefit. There's a real example here from a retailer in the UK that has a car maintenance chain. They have fragmented data in multiple systems. It was broken down into point of sale systems, their web system, vehicle information systems, some static source data. On a data transformational journey, we were able to drive their data quality and improve that quality, and we were able to resolve their entities. Now they're able to run a unified marketing campaigns to their customers. This has led to a 7% increase in the bottom line through the use of those targeted campaigns based on a unified customer record, a significant improvement. Next slide, please. So going on that digital transformation journey will result in better control of data. Good data governance leads to consistent data across multiple systems. Understanding your data enables more agile tasks to be completed, better marketing campaigns to be run, and better targeted campaigns. It also enables you to meet a consistent legislation across the environment. So, lower risk to your organization because you've got a more consistent environment. And it can improve your business processes. Single view, your golden record, can give you a better business process in the way that you operate. And it gives you a better understanding of how you're interacting with your customers. And finally, channel shift. As we move into a multi-channel environments, and those become more and more important, it enables customers to provide themselves with self-service, but the data that they see will be consistent. That consistency of data will build trust in the customer's environment, as well as complying with GDPR. And then it enables you to have consistent communications with those customers. So no matter which way they interact with you, they'll be getting the same message across your platform. Next slide, please. So the great data revolution. More data, as I said, has been created in the last 2 years than in the entire history of humanity. Regulation is responding to this change. Data is transforming the way we do business. Data growth is changing our understanding of the world. The gig economy is now a reality, and we need to be ready for that journey. Digital transformation. GDPR is part of your digital transformation journey. The benefits of GDPR can lead you to a better understanding of your customer through a single view of that customer, resulting in better control of your data, improved business processes, and support of the channel shift we're seeing today. Move to the next slide. I think we're open for questions. And that's me done. Who's going to manage the question asking?
Idan, I think it's you, right?
Is Idan gone? Has he disappeared?
I hope not.
Sorry, I was on mute. I didn't want the back noise to interrupt. Yes, 100%. I will manage that. Just Chris, would you like to put your email in for the contact if anyone wants to get in touch later?
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome to do that. Okay,
great. I mean, don't pay too much attention to the graphics now. This is still something that we're finalizing. But I mean, overall, I think it's great. I mean, the time is 30 minutes. I was wondering if we should have like a slide in the end to kind of bring the PSD2 and GDPR together. And have maybe like a call of action.
The time for the overall is 30 minutes, or for Chris's section is 30 minutes?
No, overall.
Oh, okay.
We started at 10:43.
I personally would maybe put back the agenda slide and then we show what we talked about. I don't know if there's a need for a new slide of everything that has been said. So maybe the question slide should actually be this slide, and instead of agenda, we can write here any questions, but that's...
No,
I think it's interesting to think about having a call to action. I think that's no bad thing to have at this stage at the end of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is it we want them to do? They want them to come back to us, and if they want some help with GDPR, or they want some help with PSD2, or what's the required outcome? Is that they go back to Matrix and they ask for some support, right?
Yeah, so maybe the thank you questions slide can include like a one-liner call of action on each of the two aspects, PSD2 and GDPR, and then we'll wrap it up this way. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. So again, let's rehash the questions slide to include 2 call of actions. Chris, you want to just say the call of action from your side now, or send it later?
Well, the call of actions for you guys really, because it's around, you know, if this was interesting and you'd like to understand more about GDPR or PSD2, come speak to Matrix, because we can help you. Clearly, we'll help you from a GDPR perspective as provide you with some technical support. But really, you want that business to come through you. From us, it's a sale of the license ultimately. So, come back and talk to us is really the call to action, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a one-liner actually. I'll write it here in plain English, but we can craft it later.
Also, I think we should prepare a few questions just in case that there's no questions from the audience. We've done that last time, and that was quite good. So things that we want people who are attending to know.
And who will ask those questions?
I will ask them. I will pretend as though someone really asked that.
Yeah.
Make it look organic.
Okay.
Maybe like 3 questions on PSD2 and then 3 questions on GDPR and how they tie into financial crime.
Okay.
Great. No, agreeing, but whatever network they're on is echoing.
I think maybe that's mine.
Okay, so Idan, I just made the call of action here, but you'll make it nicer later on, right? Hey, Chris, do you have a poll, or are you okay with the current state?
Sorry, you'll have to say that again. You'll have to say that again. Back on the line.
Chris, Yair, how are you connected, by the way?
The same way I was throughout this session. I didn't change anything in the last minute.
Are you using a speaker or a microphone, or are you talking directly into the computer?
Talking directly into the computer.
Okay. I can do it by way of elimination. I can actually mute people. So, you keep talking.
I'm talking. Can you hear me?
And now there's no. Yes, we can hear you. Keep talking, though. So we see if there's an echo.
Here I am. Can you hear me now?
No, it's fine. I mean, I think I've actually muted Chris, so it sounds better. I'm muting you now.
So
Okay.
I don't know, Luke. I'm only getting an echo when you're speaking now.
Okay. Well, I won't be. Wait, let me try something. What if I? What if? Okay, I've muted my speakers, so I can't hear myself. But you need to tell me if it's if you can hear better. One second. When I talk now, is that better?
No, there's still an echo.
Okay, I'll solve that by Tuesday, by Wednesday. Sorry.
Okay. So generally speaking, you will moderate the whole session, right? So you will be the first speaker and the last speaker, and you'll introduce us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you get a headset, you can turn your speakers off. You can hear through the headset and speak through the microphone. They usually have a setup on the microphone so that only detects your voice and not the ambient sound in the room.
So I'm on a Jabra speakerphone, so I don't think it's coming from this end.
So
Well,
yeah,
I
I just went into the Zoom Help Center. They say that if you hear audio or echo feedback during your meeting, there are 3 possible causes. 1, a participant has both the computer and telephone audio active. Participant with computer or telephone speakers that are too close to each other. Multiple computer with active audio in the same conference room. The last 2 are not likely. Strange, because we didn't have that all through the meeting.
So it's likely to be somebody that was on mute through the meeting with the presentation.
Anybody wants to admit that?
Grace, I think it's you. I can see you twice. Right, I'm unmuting you. Can you hear us? Wait, let me just remove her from the. Don't take it personally, Grace. I'm removing you from the chat room. Right. Okay. How? Yair, can you speak now?
Hi, can you hear me?
Chris, speak.
Yeah, that's it. It's gone.
All right. So we realized what was the reason. Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll review it again. I'll also send you the recording, Chris, in case you want to make some more changes. You want to see how it all come together, or you want to share it with Fiona, which I know she's on holiday.
Okay.
But if you have any feedback after that, just drop us an email and we'll continue from there.
Okay.
All right, brilliant. All right, thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
עידן?
כן, אני פה.
אני עושה עוד שינוי קטן.
תעשה ותשלח לי המצגת, צריך לעוד... אתה לא חושב שהתוכן שלהם הוא נורא כללי? כאילו זה לא משהו שאנשים כבר שברו איזה 50 פעם?
אפשר להגיד את זה גם על שלנו, אבל what's your point?
כן, עדיין חסר לי על הקטע הזה של ה-call to action, של מה בעצם אנחנו רוצים שאנשים יעשו עכשיו.
אז מה שאני עושה עכשיו עם המצגת, אני אראה לך את המסך שלי, החלטתי להוריד את החלק של fraud strategy recommendations, ופשוט לדבר ביותר פירוט על white box approach טיפה. אז הוספתי בחזרה את הטבלה, ואז את ה-expected attack factors, אני אעביר אותו לשקף הזה, על opportunity for innovation, שאני משאיר לך אם אתה רוצה לפצל את השקף הזה לשניים, אפשר גם, אבל...
איזה שקף?
זה שאני מראה לך עכשיו.
אני לא רואה כלום. רק שנייה, רק יש לי משהו מסתיר. אוקיי. לא הבנתי, למה זה פה?
אני מסביר עכשיו, כי השקף הזה של ה-opportunity for innovation, הוא בעצם צריך להגיד שני דברים. אחד, שיש הזדמנויות לאינובציה, והנה הזדמנויות, וההזדמנויות האלה יוצרות הזדמנויות גם ל-bad guys, מגדילים את ה-attack surface של הבנק, ויוצרים fraud vectors חדשים, אוקיי? זה בעצם המטרה החדשה של השקף הזה. ואז אני ישר עובר ל-recommendations, כלומר, הנה הבעיה, תתעלם מזה, opportunity for innovation, ואז אני מדבר על הטרנד לכיוון white box fraud prevention, ואז ל-recommendations, אתה מבין?
אוקיי.
מה המטרה הכללית של כל הסיפור הזה? להדק את החלק שלי שידבר על בעיה ספציפית, increased fraud risks, ופתרונות ספציפיים, white box fraud prevention, RTS compliance, multi-channel fraud architecture, ו-data lifecycle management. אתה מבין?
אוקיי. תלך שנייה רגע לטיימליין, לזה של הטיימליין. מה זה, תיתן שם מלא לטיימליין הזה, מה זה הטיימליין הזה? PSD2 regulation rollout?
כן, אפשר לקרוא לזה ככה. זה גם GDPR בעצם, כן? PSD2 and GDPR rollout timeline.
זה end, אני לא אוהב את המילה end, תעשה את הסימן.
אוקיי.
אוקיי, סבבה. צריך לסדר את האנימציה פה גם, זה לא יפה שזה יוצא ככה. תראה, יש עוד משהו שאפשר לעשות, דרך אגב, לא שכחתי להציע את זה. אנחנו יכולים להשתמש ב-Team Viewer, אם אתה מחבר את המחשב שלך עם המחשב של קריס, אז הוא יכול להעביר את הסליידים דרך המחשב שלך.
כן, אבל אנחנו כאילו יוצרים יותר מדי שינויים יומיים לפני הוובינר, אז כאילו, אם היינו מתאמנים על זה מראש, אז אולי זה אופציה, אבל let's stick with what we have at the moment.
טוב. אבל שאני אציע גם, רגע, קריס, שאני אציע, רגע, allowed to talk. Hi, Grace.
עוד משהו ממני או שזהו?
חכה, אני חושב שגרייס עולה, אני רוצה לשמוע מה יש לה להגיד.
אוקיי. אני עדיין לא לגמרי מרוצה מהקונטנט, אבל נראה לי, בהתחשב בנסיבות...
מה, באיזה קטע?
לא יודע, אני הייתי רוצה שיהיה יותר מהודק, יותר פאנצ'י, כאילו, אתה צודק שקריס הוא מאוד כללי, אבל זה כללי ל-GDPR, כלומר, אם היה לו ידע בפיננשל קריים, הוא היה משלב את זה, אבל אין לו, אז כאילו, הוא מדבר על מה שהוא יודע, שזה איך עושים single customer review ל-GDPR. אז זה בסדר, כאילו, זה התוכן שלו, כן?
אוקיי, ואנחנו לא...
אני רוצה להדק אותו יותר.
ואתה תדע לדבר על זה?
על מה?
על ההקשר של GDPR ביחס לפיננשל קריים? כי כאילו החלק הזה חסר מאוד. אתה יודע, ואני גם לא ממש מבין מה המוצר שלהם. אני לא מבין מה הם מנסים, כאילו הם רוצים לידים, אבל מה המוצר?
מה שאתה רואה פה, השקף הזה, זה בגדול המוצר שלהם. כאילו, יודע לקחת את המידע מהדאטה לייק, וליצור לך Data System of Record, Data Entities Resolved, Single View. זה כאילו תרשים של המוצר שלהם.
אוקיי. הבנתי.
אבל אתה יודע, גם אמרנו שאנחנו לא רוצים למכור באופן ישיר, אז כאילו, הוא לא אומר, זה המוצר שלנו.
לא למכור, אבל אתה יודע, בכל זאת, להציג מוצר זה לא בהכרח למכור.
זה מה?
אמרתי, זה שאתה מציג את המוצר, זה לא בהכרח, כן, אני אעשה סטופ לריקורדינג.
תראה, אני יכול להשקיע